Do you have a favorite exploration ship and are curious how it stacks up against the competition? Or perhaps you're just getting started in exploration and want to know what ships you should be on the lookout for? Well, either way, you're in the right place, because today we're diving deep into the world of exploration and explaining and ranking every relevant ship there is. Because this is such a beefy topic, we actually covered it all during a recent Twitch livestream. So what you are getting the privilege of watching here today is going to be the abridged and edited version at an easy breezy, only 40-ish minutes. Something to know before going into the bulk of the video is that this tier list is from the perspective of a PvE focused player doing cosmic signature data and relic sites like standard pirate sites, sleeper caches, ghost sites, ninja hacking, and similar content. Just because a ship might be lower on this list doesn't mean it's not a good or even the best ship for a different kind of gameplay. I know you're going to enjoy this video, so without further ado, let's get started. Let's go ahead and bring up our ship tree and talk about what the exploration ships are. So first, we have our four major empires. That's going to be Amarr, Caldari, Gallente, and Minmatar. And each of these has a basic T1 frigate. This is your very first starting stone. Amarr has Magnate, Caldari has Heron, Gallente has Imicus, and Minmatar has the Probe. So each of these are all going to be very similar. They have slightly different fit layouts and everything, but the main thing is that they have this roll bonus. 5+ bonus to the relic and data analyzer strength. They also have the 7.5% per level bonus to core and combat strength. So if you get them all the way up to level 5, you can get up to 35% more scanning strength. These ships are really good. So top slots are useful for things like your probe launcher, your cloaking device, and your interdiction nullifier if your ship can use those things. Your mid slots are very useful for you need kind of like at least a prop mod, an analyzer, a cargo scanner, and maybe some scanning upgrades. Your bottom slots are going to be generally useful for evasion. So going faster, warping faster, aligning faster, or getting your scan targeting range far enough out so you can effectively use your cargo scanner. And then your rig slots are kind of just the catch-all. They patch your weak spots. They can pretty much take care of anything. They give you more scan strength. They can give you better deviation. They can give you better hacking skills. They can give you faster movement and warp you faster. Rigs are very universal, though, and basically all ships are going to have 2 or 3 rigs. They are just the more rig slots you have, the better. So with all of that in mind, let's start with the Heron. Heron is a T1 frig, very useful for alphas, and it has an amazing slot layout. We have enough slots for a prop mod, a analyzer, a cargo scanner, and 2 scanning upgrades. We have 2 low slots, which can be used to get around a little faster, a little bit further targeting. So the Heron cannot use a interdiction nullifier, it cannot use a cloaking device because it is just a basic little T1 frigate. That is kind of its downside, but for how cheap it is, you don't really need those modules. And I, in fact, think that having a cloaking device is a little bit overrated. You don't really need it. With all of that in mind, we're going to go ahead and give the Heron, the first one, S rank. Heron is just one of the best exploration ships. It's cheap, it does the job, it has no frills involved, anyone can use it, there's nothing not to like. Exploration is not like a big bar to reach before you can go and be one of the best explorers. You can fly a Heron immediately, and it is going to do so well for you. So let's talk about the other T1 Explo frigs now. So we got the Gallente, which has the Imicus. So now we've brought up the Imicus slot layout, and we can see that it has, again, at least 1 top slot for our probe launcher. It's again T1 frigate, so it can't fly cloaking or interdiction. And then in our mids, we have enough for a prop, an analyzer, a cargo scanner, and 1, so 4 is totally fine. And then here we have 3 in the bottom, which can help us with our movement, and 3 rig slots. So why is the Heron better or worse than this? They're very comparable. If you like the look of this better, you can totally fly this. But having that 1 extra mid slot, having that little bit of extra scanning power, is going to be better than having a little bit extra maneuverability. And for that reason, the Heron does eke out a little bit more over the Imicus. But the Imicus is still very good, can do all of your basic exploration sites in it, and will definitely do you well. So for that reason, And if you like so why would you go Amicus over a Heron? If you are a Galente enjoyer and want to get up into the T2 Galente frigs more than you want to get into the Caldari T2 frigs, you would just level your Galente frigs up and get that skill up for the Amicus, and then it would be a better choice for you than the Heron. So with that in mind, the Amicus is going to be a nice A tier. Next up on the list is the Probe. So this is the Mimitar version of the T1. And as we look into its slot layout, it is again a 3-4-3, just like the Amicus. It has 3 rigs as well. This is going to be pretty much exactly like the Amicus. If you like Mimitar ships, if you want to fly the T2 Mimitar frigate, then I would definitely recommend the Probe. And with that in mind, let's go ahead and put this in the A tier. Lastly, for the T1 frigates, we're going to be talking about the Magnate. Magnate has a 3-3-4 layout. So we're getting pretty slow on these here mid slots. You can have a prop mod, a analyzer, a cargo scanner, and no extra scanning equipment. It has 4 lows, so it is generally good at getting around. If you have a particular special use for the lows, maybe that will come in handy. But in general, it is going to be the weakest of the T1 frigates. It is not so much more weaker that if you were wanting to fly the T2 Amar frigates, you could definitely fly a Magnate, no problem. But we are going to go ahead and put it in B tier. Okay, so now that we have covered the T1 frigates, let's talk about the Navy version. Each of the 4 major empires has a Navy or fleet version of their respective frigate. Here for the Amar, we got the Magnate Navy issue. In a general sense, these ships are going to be doing basically the exact same thing as their T1 counterpoint, but they're going to be slightly more expensive. By slightly more, I mean about like 10 million ISK more. If you are a very new player, this is a lot of money, so you might not want to invest in it in something that's probably not going to give you a lot of return. But there are situations where this extra little bonuses that these ships give, mostly in the form of module slots and fitting space. If you need an extra mod slot, or you need a little bit more extra fitting space because you don't have exactly all of the best skills, and you're trying to fit something special or weird a little bit, then you might want to look to upgrade your T1 frigate into one of these Navy versions. But most of the time, you don't need it. And therefore, most of the time, these extra Navy ships are pretty useless. So first, we have the Magnate Navy issue. You get an extra low slot, you get a little extra fitting slot, but it's just, again, it's going to be 10 times the price of the whole of the basic T1 ship, and therefore I am going to put it slightly worse than the regular Magnate. Moving on to the Caldari, we have the lovely Heron Navy issue. However, this is not so lovely in that we get an extra module slot in our top slot, which is all but useless for an exploration ship. Maybe have a bigger like neutralizer on it, something to like maybe defend yourself a little bit more. If you are an Omega player, not an Alpha player, you can technically put a cloaking device on these ships as well, like a basic one. It doesn't let you warp cloak, and that goes for the T1 frigates as well. But it's overrated. You don't really need it, but maybe that's what you use this extra top slot for. And you get a little bit of extra fitting space if you need it for some reason. But again, it is just, in my opinion, going to be strictly worse than the Heron for its price point. So we are going to go ahead and put it in. Is it going on A or B? I'm actually going to put it above the Amicus and Probe because it does have the 5 mid slots. And I think the Heron, that extra mid slot is so much better than the extra low slot. I'm going to put it above the Amicus and Probe. Caldari just has some really good T1 frigates for exploration. Moving on to the Galente, we have the Amicus Navy issue. It gains an extra low slot, and again, it's very similar to the other one. If you need fitting, if you need an extra low slot to maybe get a little bit of extra align time, get your breakpoint down, that could be a useful use for it, but it's going to be worse than the Amicus and Probe. And it's probably going to be worse than the Magnate. Yeah, I'm going to put it worse than the Magnate even. It's going down into the B, because I don't really see a whole lot of use for it. And then lastly, we have the Probe fleet issue. Here, we get another extra top slot, very crappy. Some more fitting space, that's about it. This is just going to be not really worth considering at all. So we're going to go ahead and put this down into C tier. Or maybe F. We're going to put it in C tier for now. We'll see if that stays. So moving up in the world, we are now going to talk about pirate frigs. And we're going to start with the Astero. The Astero is the Sisters of Eve exploration ship. It has, if we look at its bonuses, 100% reduction cloaking device CPU requirement. So if you are an Omega, you can use a cloaking device and even a covert cloaking device. So if you do really want to use a cloak and you don't have T2 skills or just like the Astero a lot, this ship can warp cloaked. That is one of its major big bonuses compared to the other T1 frigs. You do get plus 10 also bonus to your relic and data analyzer, which is double the amount of the regular T1 frigates. And you get a base static roll bonus of 37.5% bonus to your core and combat scanner strength probes. You typically would have to have level 5 in your Empire skill to get that much of a bonus with the other roll or with the other ship bonuses. But this one just gets it right off the base. You don't need any investment into it. All of this sounds pretty good, huh? The Astero sounds pretty good, huh? It's got 2 top slots, enough for a cloaking device and a core scanner probe launcher. It's got 4 mids, which is enough for a prop analyzer, cargo scanner, and 1 scan bonus module. And it's got 4 lows, which can make it go fast. It is also the fastest on grid, the most agile on grid exploration ship there is in the game. So it gets around those sites very handy. It does have slightly less fitting in 350 fitting configuration for its rigs. It does have 3 slots though, so you're going to need to choose different rigs for this ship. And kind of the big part is that it's about 90 million ISK, 85 million ISK for just this hull. If you are big spending, if you are learned enough, experienced enough that you are not really going to be losing ships, you can consider flying this ship. It will probably make you a little bit more risk averse, so you might not be willing to take those sites that you would in a very cheap 1 million ISK Heron. But if you got the ISK, it does a lot of things. It's very good on grid. It's obviously a very good ship. A lot of people really like it. It looks super cool, and it does a whole lot of good stuff. It just comes at a beefy price tag. And because of all of this, I think that beefy price tag makes it an A-class ship. It's better than the Navy Heron, definitely. You got the money, definitely can fly it. It's very good. Now it's time to talk about the T2 frigates, the T2 Covop. These are kind of what people consider the bread and butter of exploration frigates. Something to know is that they do have like 2 variations of bonuses. The Amar and Caldari ships are going to be having this core probe deviation bonus right here, 5% reduction. And then the Galente and Mimitar ships are going to be having this 5% bonus to ship max velocity when using cloaking devices. We're going to start with Amar because it's a lovely place to start. With the Anathema, the Anathema. We go into it. It has 3 top slots, 4 mids, and 4 lows. So at first glance, this maybe doesn't seem much better than a Magnate. If you look into its bonus, we get 10% bonus instead of 7.5. So instead of maxing out at 37.5% bonus, we can max out at 50% bonus now. And we also get this plus 10 bonus to relic and data analyzers, the same as the Astero. However, it comes at a significantly lower price point. At about 23 million ISK for this hull, we get better scan strength, we get better analysis strength, and we get pretty much the same slot layout. That said, something very special about the Anathema, and it goes a little beyond the scope of what we're talking about, but the Anathema is a very hardy ship in the explosive category. And covert ghost sites use explosive only damage. And if you are looking for a T2 Covop frig that can best handle those sites with a refit and best handle other sites like limited sleeper caches and standard sleeper caches and a little bit superior sleeper caches even, then the Anathema is actually my favorite exploration ship. I think it's the best. We can look at my Anathema fit called To Boldly Go, and it is a marvelous piece of work. This is one of my master works. It has everything you need to do a very large variety of sites. Comes with virtues, which makes it very expensive. The whole fit is 2.2 billion ISK, but this thing is so good. It just has everything just how you want it to be perfectly right. That if you were looking for the pinnacle of scanning frig, the Anathema is it. It is just a wonderful machine. If you're not going for the pinnacle, if you're going for a more standard operation, it is still very good, but there are going to be, for that purpose, probably better T2 frigates which we'll get to here in a second. But let's go ahead and rank the Anathema, and we're going to put it as S-Class above the Heron for the reasons I have stated. Moving on to the Caldari, we have the tried and true Buzzard. The Buzzard, again, is a world-class exploration frigate. We got 3 tops, 5 mids, and 3 lows. And with this, we get an extra low slot compared to the T1 version. We get 1 less rig slot, but the same amount of fitting, and we were already using 2 rigs. And it comes in at 26 million, so you're paying basically 25 million to get the bonuses of better scan strength and better analysis strength. If you are looking for a more standard, not super optimized fit like the Anathema, the Buzzard is going to be the best T2 covert op ship for sure. It's got 5 mids, got an extra low, it's got 3 lows now, it's got its good old bonuses up to 50% and 10%, 10 plus bonus. So, and it's fairly cheap at about 25 million. So with all of that, we are going to be putting Buzzard in the S-Class. It's about tied between the Heron and the Buzzard, actually. It depends on like what your skills are, and like I'm gonna put it actually below the Heron. It's definitely a close race. It just depends on what you need a little bit more. I'm gonna put Heron because it is more accessible than the Buzzard, but Buzzard's a great ship, wonderful ship. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about the Helios. So here, if we simulate the ship, we can see that we do get a lovely extra mid slot. So now this bad boy has 3 tops, 5 mids, and 3 bottoms, just like the Buzzard. So now I bet you're asking, why is this ship not equal to or better than the Buzzard? It comes back to what we talked about before, in that it's bonus. So the scan probe deviation bonus is going to actually end up being a lot better of a bonus for your exploration needs when compared to this 5% ship max velocity while cloaked. So that's useful in other applications for sure, like bookmarking site for like combat stuff. But in this instance, because the Buzzard has a much better bonus, ship bonus, than the Helios, we are going to go ahead and put the Helios a little bit less good. So much so that I think you're starting to get into the territory where I guess it's still better than the Astero. Still a little bit better than an Astero because it is much cheaper and it does have still that 50% bonus to scan strength and the hacking bonus. And then lastly, we have the Mimitar coming in with their lovely little cheetah. Just like the name says, again, it's got that bonus for the 5% faster well cloak. But here we sadly missed the mark with the cheetah. We only have 4 mids. We have 4 lows. We really would have liked a 5th mid here. That would have been doing something for it. But even then, it has a worse bonus. So I hate to say it, but the cheetah is not looking very good. I'm not really thinking you should go for this ship. Man, yeah, it's better than a fleet probe, I guess, but it is not looking good. So if you want to explore, maybe just don't go Mimitar T2 frigs. And for the last T2 Covop frig on the list, we're going away from the Empires and to the Concord Assembly. So these have special little ships. It's called the Pacifier. We're going to go ahead and show info. It has a whole bunch of different bonuses based on your different Empire stats. But here we have the Covop bonuses. It's got the 10%, and it's got 10% bonus to warp speed and acceleration. So this thing is going to be warping around incredibly fast, like some of the fastest warp speeds in the game. You're going to go from system to system in the blink of an eye. That is its major benefit here. If we go down to its roll bonuses, we also see a 10 plus bonus to the Relic and Data Analyzer virus strength. It can fit the Covert Op cloaking device. All the T2 Covop ships can fit the T2 Covert cloaking ops device. That's kind of their idea. The Astero is special in that realistically it shouldn't be able to fit it, but it's got a special occasion that it can. Here we are looking at a lot of tops, a lot of useless tops. We got 4 mids, we wish it was 5, and we got 4 lows, which I guess is fine. It's got only 2 rigging slots with, again, the 400 calibration, so just like all the other T2 Covop ships. Fine there. The main problem with this ship, even more so than the Astero, is again, its price tag. These are rare and unique kind of ships, and therefore they command a very expensive price tag. And the benefits that you get for it is just going system to system very fast. Think of it as kind of like an upgraded Astero, but we can't really justify it. You're going to be so risk averse in this thing. It's only going to be useful in such small little niche situations. It's not particularly beefy. It's quite fragile. There are, I guess, some uses for it. Maybe if you're in like very friendly territory and you do not expect to lose your ship ever at all, then you might want to pick it up for its warp speed bonuses. But I don't see a lot of usage in these, and so we're gonna rank it not super highly. So let's see, we got the pacifier, and there is some uses in it, so it's more better than a cheetah and a fleet probe, but probably not as useful as just a T1 ship. So we're gonna put it at the bottom of the useful T1 frigates. It also doesn't get any of the extra scan deviation bonuses or cloaked speed bonuses. The last frigate on our list is going to be the Metamorphosis. So this is a Society of Conscious Thought. They're, again, a kind of specialized line. Every player gets one of these ships every year, and so it's got a neat set of bonuses. It's got 37.5 flat core probe scanner strength. It's got 37.5 reduction to the scan deviation, plus 10 bonus to relic and data analyzer, plus 2 bonus to warp core ship strength. So if people are trying to tackle you, they're going to have a much harder time for doing it, which makes this a very good ship to kind of be more safe. And 100% reduction in cloaking device, probe, and data analyzer CPU requirements. So basically all of your stuff is fitting on for free. It can fit a covert ops device just like the Astero, and all of that sounds pretty freaking good, right? Pretty good. And then we get to its slot layout, and we're a little bit sad. Not incredibly sad. It's got 3 mids, 3 lows, and 3 mids. So a prop mod, an analyzer, and a cargo scanner. No extra scanning available. It has 3 rig slots and full 400 calibration, and it comes in at a price tag of 40 million IS. Not too bad, not too bad. And this ship, it even has a special, if you really want to use it, a very special depot. It has a mobile depot hold capacity. So you can fit for free, basically, a mobile depot in this ship. It's got a lot going for it. It's a fairly new ship to the game, but it is really, really good. And if you cannot fly something better and have a little bit of money to spend, this ship is going to be really doing you wonders. I definitely rank it much higher than the Astero, so because that is its kind of closest comparison, is one of the like special T1 frig. We are going to go ahead and put it slightly below the Heron, but better than the Buzzard. Do I want to put it over the Heron? No, 40 million is too much. Actually, it's worse than the Buzzard. Buzzard's 25 and can do the same or better. Yeah, it's worse than the Buzzard. All right, now moving on to the destroyers. There's only one real useful destroyer in the exploration game, and it is going to again be a Society of Conscious Thought ship line, and it is the Synesis. Simulate the Synesis, and we can also show its bonuses. And here, we don't really get much, but we do get the 37.5% bonus to your core and combat probe strength. It scans a little bit better. We have 4 mids, 4 lows, and so you're probably asking yourself, why is the Synesis good? And I'm here to tell you, it's because it is really quite fast and durable. So I really like to use the Synesis during like event sites, or when I think I am going to be attacked more often than not. So if you're going into deadly enemy territory, maybe even like low sec space exploration, then the Synesis is really where it starts to shine. It can get away from most all gankers with a particular fit, and it can, just perform really well. It's got a low cost point at 20 million ISK per ship, and can definitely handle itself more than the frigates. So a little bit niche, but still pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and put it definitely above the Navy Heron, but maybe I guess less than the Astero, because you're starting to get a little bit niche there. I personally love the Synesis, though. It's one of my favorite exploration ships. Departing from destroyers, let's go ahead and move up into the cruiser class. So we're moving back to the Sisters of Eve ship line for the Astero, and we're going to be looking at the Stratios. When you look at its ship layout, it's got a lot of high slots, 5 mids, so we're back into the 5 mid territory, and 5 lows. So generally larger ships have more module slots in them. We're now into the cruiser area, and so having a lot of module slots is definitely useful. It will get us a lot of utility. And so why would you use a Stratios? If we look at its characteristics, we're going to be getting some armor resistances, which means we're going to start looking into like doing more sites. So things like the sleeper caches and the covert ghost sites are going to be your most standard extra sites to do, in which case you need a lot of explosive resistances. and the Stratios handles that pretty well. You can also do the sleeper sites, in which you're going to be taking some damage here and there, and the Stratios can actually start to be able to tank that damage. You can also start working your way and doing, it's called like C5 ninja hacking, where you can go into like C5 class wormholes and do the data and relic sites there in a very particular way, and the Stratios basically unlocks this level of extra sites. So if you're looking to do more specialized, interesting sites over your basic little relic sites, then you want to start maybe looking into the cruiser classes of ships. So the Stratios, anyone can fly it, even an alpha can fly it, which is definitely a bonus there. It survives very well. You are starting to get into the specialized ships cost for cruisers. We're looking at 240 million ISK for a Stratios. So you're not going to want to lose this. This is a ship that you are going to care about. You're going to do what you need to do to make sure that it lives. But in doing so, you get a roll bonus of the 37.5% of your core probe strength. You also get the plus 10 bonus to your analyzer strength. And you can also fit the covert ops cloak, which is definitely a bonus there. Yeah, so that's pretty much all there is to say about the Stratios. It's pretty good and a little bit more specialized. So we're going to put it, I like it a little less than the Synesis, but it depends on what you're doing. I like the quickness and fastness of the Synesis. Synesis is much cheaper, but it definitely has a harder time surviving things that the Stratios can easily survive. And now we're moving on to the big daddies. We're going back to the Empire. And these are ships that a large number of players consider just bar none the best ships in the game. They are incredibly useful, versatile. They can do basically anything that you want them to do, including exploration. So we're going to start with the Amarr T3C Legion. These are very interesting ships in which you basically have to modularly put things on them to make them the exact ship that you want, but suffice it to say, they can be made in a way that is very good for exploration. They are going to be quite expensive, and they do take a lot of SP to be able to pilot effectively, but assuming that you have met those bars, these things can refit to do like basically any and all, not only like exploration sites, but combat sites at the same time. They can go out, they can find content to do, they can refit to do it, and you can just have a lot of fun just flying around in space, doing a lot of different cool things in these T3Cs, but it all does come at a very expensive price point. So if we go ahead, we're going to simulate a Legion real quick, and let's put in some subsystems just to get an idea. So this is an example of a Legion with some subsystems that are helpful for exploration. As you can see, we do only still have about 4 mid slots, which isn't the greatest. We end up with 5 low slots, but it is still really good. And if we look at specifically the covert reconfiguration, we're going to be getting 10% bonus to our core probe strength. We're going to be getting, again, the 100% reduction in cloaking device CPU, the plus 10 bonus to our analyzer strength, and it can fit the covert ops. So basically turns this into a cruiser class exploration ship with this subsystem. But we could probably do better. This honestly doesn't look that good for a T3C. Legion is, I guess, a little bit lacking in that department. So we're going to go ahead and put the Legion, something I would probably rather fly. Honestly, it's not really great. I'm going to put it all the way down to C. You probably shouldn't be flying. There are better T3Cs, as we will find out in here in just a second. So we're going to put it down in the C tier. I think it is more useful than a Cheetah or a Fleet Probe. Moving on to Caldari. So here we see the Tengu in its exploration fit configuration, and there is a whopping 7 mid slots. You can do a lot with 7 mid slots. We do only have 2 low slots, but you know, it's whatever, that's fine. We'll live with it. So this is going to be a very good exploration Tengu, and you're going to be able to get a lot of scanning upgrades in those mid slots, maybe even too many, but there are different versions that you can put in, so the stacking penalties are less affected that way. Definitely a very good ship for the job. And if you need a cruiser class ship to do any and everything, Tengu is going to be really good for you. So we're going to go ahead and put this up into a, I guess maybe high A. Yeah, we're going to do high A. Go ahead and moving on to the Galente, we have the Proteus. We have something that looks like this. And here we can see we only have 4 mid slots. Again, not great. We have 5 lows. It's going to be pretty slow also compared to the other ships. So honestly, not the greatest exploration ship. There are better options, and at least the Tengu and one other that we'll see here in just a second. Little spoiler alert. So we go ahead and put this on the list. We're going to put this basically equal to the Legion. I'm going to put it slightly worse, just because I think it's slightly heavier, slightly slower. And then lastly, for the T3Cs, we have the Mimitar Republic, the Loki. And this is what that is going to look like. We come out with a nice 6 mid slots, 3 low slots, and a very cool and good looking ship, in my opinion. Pretty much a Tengu, but maybe slightly better. And by maybe, I mean definitely slightly better. You don't really need 7 mid slots. At that point, it is probably better to get an extra low slot just for a little bit of extra maneuverability or a little bit of like extra fitting, or, you know, there's more options in the low slots, right? This is looking really good, and it is also a Mimitar ship. So Mimitar ships are in general going to be the fastest, most agile, most fragile, but in this sense it doesn't matter because it's definitely still tanky enough, I assure you. This ship is going to be flying around really good, really fast, and is definitely going to be the #1 T3C for exploration activities. The T3Cs unlock so many activities, combat activities, any and everything you can find on your probe scanner. A T3C is pretty much going to be able to do it. Loki, wonderful good ship, definitely an S-class ship, and we're going to put it, if you need it, ooh, this is difficult, higher than Metamorphosis but less than Buzzard, because these ships are going to be costing you probably about $500 million. That's 500 million ISK for these ships. At like the low price point. They can get ridiculously expensive if you really get them out. I think the amount of things that you can do in an Anathema, Heron, and Buzzard is so vast and so rich in ISK that you don't really need to be looking to get into one of these T3Cs. And I only put it above a Metamorphosis because the Metamorphosis is starting to get a higher price tag at the 40 million. It's a very close call though. Now with the T3Cs out of the way, we are on to our final 2 ships, and they are pretty niche ships. We are going to first be looking at the next in the Society of Conscious Thought line. They skip cruisers and go straight to battle cruisers in the Gnosis. The Genosis, the Gnosis, whatever you want to call it. Works for me. We look at its slot layout, and we have a Mondo 6 mid slots, 6 low slots, 5 or 6 high slots. It's got a lot of slots. Its roll bonuses does only, just like the Synesis, have only the 37.5% bonus to your scan strength. So what are you using this ship for? Basically anything that you would use a Synesis for, except for you need to be slower and more tanky. So not a whole lot. I would say this is best use case for this ship in exploration is doing C5 wormhole ninja site. Basically, you go into a C5 wormhole, you do the data and relics in a certain particular way, and because you can be so tanky with this ship, it's very flexible. Anyone can fly it, which is a nice. All the Society of Conscious Thoughts, that's kind of like their ship line main trait, is that anyone can fly any of them. There is a very niche case for how you would explore with the Gnosis. Maybe some event sites, whenever events come around, might be most useful for a Gnosis. You'll have to figure out it for yourself, but it's decent, it's slow, it's bulky. It's going to be like even bulkier for the price point. It's going to be even bulkier than a T3C and a Stratios because it is a ship class higher. So you can make it cheap and bulky. That comes at a trade-off. You got to figure out what you want that bulkiness for. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and put the Gnosis in the niche but decent tier. I would probably take it over a Magnate. I'd probably take it over... I think the Stratios is a little bit better. It is much more expensive, the Stratios, but it does allow you to do more things. But it's also is it better than the Stratios? No, it's worse than the Stratios. So I'm thinking about the Stratios in that another streamer by the name of Brother Gwemrar, check them out for sure. They focus and specialize in doing high-sec Stratios exploration, and the things that they can do with that ship is marvelous. And they just wouldn't be able to do the same things in a Gnosis. So I'm going to put it slightly worse than a Stratios. Niche, but good. And then we come to the final one. The biggest, the baddest, the most exploration ship there is. The Nestor. Let's just look at this. Look at this wonderful big piece of work. I guess you don't really get the sense of scale here. Nestor is a big old battleship, and it's, I guess, an exploration ship too. It's the last in the Society or Sisters of Eve ship line. It does have roll bonuses. It's get a whopping roll bonus, the biggest there is. 50% bonus to your core and combat probe strength. You get plus 10 bonus to your strength, and you get a bunch of other battleship bonuses as well. We go ahead and showcase its ship fitting, and we have a lot of top slots for, you know, various things. Don't worry about it. We have 6 mid slots, and we have 6 low slots, like the Gnosis, but bigger and badder. But this one can actually scan and hack, and it's got all of those bonuses too. And most, in my opinion, most importantly, the one niche case use for this ship is that you can get ridiculous scanning with it. If you fully kit it out, you can make it scan very fast, and you can get it to warp very fast. And then you're like kind of at a loss of like how to actually do the sights. But here is where the secret sauce comes in. And I've done this in friendly null space before. It was great, good, fun content. It has a frigate escape bay. That's right, a frigate escape bay. You can jump out of your Nestor into a frigate. And you know what we've been talking about a lot here? You know what's really good at like hacking exploration sites? The frigates. That's right. Just a T1 Heron. You can put a T1 Heron in this bad boy. You can have the Nestor go out, scan everything, be fast, tanky, bulky, have a lot of escape methods, and then you can get out in safe space. Hopefully your Nestor doesn't get combat scanned. There are still definitely risks in doing this. But there is a niche case use where you can basically use this as your scanning ship and then have a on-grid hacking ship, which definitely Astero is a really good choice there. You can fit your Astero not for scanning, but you can fit it basically all for maneuverability. So you can do the sites very quick. You can find the sites quickly, you can get to the sites quickly. There is a use case there. That said, it's very minimal. It is a very expensive ship. It coming at the hull is 1.1 billion ISK. It's going to be by far the most expensive ship here on the list. But if you really just want to have a fun time, you can definitely fly the Nestor and have a good time with it. You can also definitely do the like Ninja C5 hacking in just a Nestor. It's definitely overkill. It's way too expensive, and you are going to be locked in on that grid, so I wouldn't suggest it. But you can. You can. And obviously, it should go without saying, this thing is going to be very slow moving on grid, no matter what you do. So probably don't put it on grid for much of anything. Warping around and scanning, that's its job. But it can get ridiculous scan strength, highest in the game, in fact. Actually, that's not true. The T3C can get higher because it can get 7 or 8 mid slots if you really do it correct. With that in mind, let's go ahead and rank the Nestor, and it is going to probably fall, is it more or less than a pacifier? I'm going to put it below pacifier. All right, and then there we have it. So here is our tier list. Do we need to make any modifications? Yeah, let's go ahead. We're gonna move the cheetah and fleet probe. I would never use these. I would never use these, which means we could probably put pacifier Nestor here. There are cases when I would use a magnate. Definitely. So I would, as like a new player, I would definitely use a magnate. Because it goes into the anathema. But I guess, actually, no. I would never use a magnate because the metamorphosis exists. Wait, but if I was poor? Yeah, I guess if I was poor and I wanted to get into the anathema, I would be using a magnate in that situation. Would I ever use a Navy Imicus? And I guess there are reasons I would use the pacifier and Nestor over the magnate. I'm never going to use a Navy magnate or a Navy Imicus. Hell no. But I would definitely use a pacifier and Nestor. Except I would use a magnate in the case that I'm going to train into the anathema. Okay, we're going to put these down here. We're going to put these up here. Do I need to bring down any of the A's? Actually, let's start at the top now. Anathema, yes, is best. Heron is next best. Buzzard is next best, yes. Loki, Metamorphosis. All this makes sense. Tengu. Is an Astero better than a Helios? Also, Jesus, Cheetah got fucking chump changed. Holy shit. Oh, I dumped on Cheetah. But I would never use a Cheetah. Would I ever use a Helios? No. I mean, it does have 5 mids. Yeah, I guess I would sometimes use a Helios. You miss out on the deviation. Stero's probably better than a Helios. I'm gonna bring Helios down. Kind of want to put a Synesis over a Stero. No. I'm just an Astero hater. And the only reason I'm an Astero hater is because everyone loves it so much. Like, it is good, but it's not S. You'd argue Helios is better than Astero. Just for the price? Yeah, I guess you're right. The Astero is so fucking expensive. Astero is really good on grid. Synesis is like cheap but niche. Yeah. Stratios is expensive but good, better than the Gnosis. Gnosis is niche but cheap. I think we're gonna move these down into B tier. Yeah. That'll also help my like distribution. In order to just help my bell curve distribution, I think we might do this. No, I'm never using a Legion Proteus. Never mind. No, I've never used a Legion Proteus. After we rearranged it a little bit, this is how our final tier list is looking. As you can see, 4 out of 5 of the S tier are frigates. Frigates are really good for exploration. Do not discount them. Then we have a T3C. A-class is another T3C. Some frigates, destroyers, cruisers, battle cruisers, kind of mixes up in the kind of like best in class of different size categories. After you start getting to B, you start getting to like really niche or weird ships. Probably you're not going to be using a whole lot, but there are some reasons that you might want to pick one up. Based on like your training or your lifestyle. And then C is basically last resort stuff, and F is I just would never use exploring. They are technically exploration ships, but if you're looking at one of these for exploring, you should probably reconsider.